In this video we're going to take a look at just the eukaryote organelles. So prokaryotes didn't really have a lot going on in them, but eukaryotes we had a lot of structures. And so we're going to take a look at some of those structures in this video and then in future videos to come. Now when we're looking at all of these structures, and here's a few in here, specifically this one is the nucleus, and then some items inside the nucleus. And then you have this structure that kind of wraps around the nucleus and has these little dots on it. These are called, organelles. And any structure inside of the cell that has a job is called an organelle. And so you can see a lot of organelles listed here in this picture. We're going to talk about things like the Golgi complex, the endoplasmic reticulum, the mitochondria, lysosomes. There's a lot of variety when it comes to what they do and what their names are. We're going to start with the nucleus though, because the nucleus is your control center. The nucleus is what tells all of these other structures out here what to do, what to make. So we're going to take a look at structures that are in or on the nucleus. So our very first one, this is your nuclear membrane. So the nuclear membrane, I want you to notice, is 2 layers thick. And the nuclear membrane has these pores that are able to open and close, and then they also have these little dots on them. We'll talk about ribosomes at the end of this video. But the nuclear membrane is around the nucleus. The cell membrane goes around the cell. Nuclear membrane goes around the nucleus. And so it is a barrier that protects the nucleus from all of the jobs that are happening inside the cytoplasm. It is a double layer, like I mentioned, and it is covered with pores because the nucleus does need to be able to release the items that it's making, and it also needs to be able to take in items that it needs. Now this is an actual microscopic picture of a nucleus, and you can see the nucleus here, the 2 layers that surround it, but you can also see in a few of these spots you can see the nuclear pores that they're pointing at. This is kind of a picture of just the front view, like if you were looking at a beach ball, like you're looking at the whole outside, you can see all these little black dots. So the nuclear pores can be really grouped together, so there's several together, and sometimes there's areas where there aren't as many. But the nuclear pores are openings. This is where the material can go in and out of the nucleus. And now let's look at kind of the inside of this. So if we were to delve into the inside of the nucleus, go through the nuclear pores, we would come across what we call chromatin. And chromatin is a mixture of protein with your DNA. And chromatin can come into 2 forms. We normally see it as chromosomes, where it has kind of condensed into a certain shape. But there are times when it's unraveled. And when it's unraveled, it's kind of hard to see or make out. It just looks like this dull mass, and you can see that here where it's just labeled DNA. So it's all of this white material. It doesn't have any specific shape to it. It just is kind of there. So, but when it's condensed or when it coils down, it makes up what we know as these chromosomes. Okay, so I want you to think of chromatin like a big bowl of spaghetti. And the noodles are just taking up all this space, and you can't see tons of definition because of how, they get knotted up and kind of tied together type thing. But if you were to take a look at, one piece of spaghetti and you were to really analyze it and microscopically advance it, make it larger, you would see the DNA, the double helix that we are used to, attached to these little proteins, and it's coiled up around these little balls. And when we see it, normally underneath a microscope, and I can take you back a few slides in a previous video, we saw those X-shaped chromosomes, and that is what we normally see under a microscope, as we can see this X shape. That's still the chromatin, but it's the chromatin all condensed down, raveled up, tightly packaged into that chromosome. For humans, we have 46 of these chromosomes, and that's 23 pairs. We get 23 chromosomes from mom and 23 from dad for a total of 46. Now, also inside of the nucleus, we're going to come across the nucleolus. Now, this one's kind of hard sometimes on the test. People will confuse this one because it looks like nucleus. It has an extra L in there, so just be really careful when you're spelling it. I normally don't take off for spelling, but try your very best. Try and make sure. I need to know that you know the difference between nucleus and nucleolus, so you're going to have to be careful with that one. But its job is to make RNA and ribosomes. So it makes a certain type of nucleic acid, but it also makes those little ribosome dots that I've pointed to a few different times. The nucleolus is pretty large. It's a really dark region inside of the nucleus, so it shows up pretty good underneath the microscope. So it is a dark mass. If you're ever looking for a nucleus on a picture or you have to draw one yourself, you would want to just make sure that you're drawing a dark spot inside of the nucleus. Now, ribosomes we've mentioned several different times, and we're going to end with this one in this video. But ribosomes are these little black dots, and you can see them throughout. And there's this little ribbon item here we'll talk about. It's a different organelle. But there are ribosomes all over inside of the cell. Ribosomes' job is to make protein. So the proteins that we talked about, made up of amino acids from our previous unit on macromolecules. Your ribosomes help to make those. There are two different types of ribosomes, and they get their names by where you find them. So some of them are called free ribosomes, and that just means that they're just kind of floating, suspended in the cytoplasm. They're able to move about freely, hence free ribosomes. And you can see some free ribosomes here, not attached to anything. And then we also have bound ribosomes. And bound ribosomes just mean that they've attached themselves onto an organelle. And you can see those same ribosomes that are free here, some of them have attached themselves to this structure, this endoplasmic reticulum. We haven't talked about that yet. There's a large number of ribosomes specifically in the pancreas. The pancreas has an important job of helping to make proteins. That's why we see so many of them in your pancreatic cells.